Hello again, everyone. Michael Zupan with Byte-Size Impressions, and joining me this evening is Gabriel Galliani, all the way from Italia. Gabe, how are you?
I'm tired and I'm kind of sick. Like I got some sort of a flu, but it's okay.
Yeah, I was dying of the plague for a little while there myself. It took me a little over 3 weeks to get better from this chest ailment that I had for a little while. So I feel you on that. So it's been a while since we've been here. It's been about 2 months since the last time we had done a podcast. Of course, I guess ever since then you could call it the dead season for video gaming, since nothing's pretty much being released because everybody sort of, blew their load right before Christmas. So there has been plenty of things to talk about, though, in the lead up to certain games being released, and we're just going to get right into it because we do have so much to talk about this evening. One of the games that has been gaining a lot of attention through social media as well as through just video game journalism, if we want to call it that, is the game Evolve. Evolve is a game that had a lot of hype going into it. And why? Well, it's because Turtle Rock Studios were responsible for Left 4 Dead. And that's the same crew that's doing Evolve. And if you ask me, Gabe, I don't know if you agree, but Left 4 Dead, I would say, is one of the best multiplayer co-op experiences of all time.
It's definitely a very, very, very fun one, especially with friends. Like, actually, I don't see any other way to play it, if not with friends, because that's been our pastime for, like, at least a couple of years. Like, we're still, to this day, me and my buddies, we still gather and play that from time to time. So I think that's a testament to how fun it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And now for anybody who has not played Left 4 Dead, I know there's a lot of zombie fatigue going on right now because every single you fart, basically, there's a new zombie game that's out there, and everybody's sort of getting sick of it. But you're missing out if you haven't played Left 4 Dead. You have to play it. The reason why it's so amazing, in my personal opinion, is that, well, I guess you have to sort of think about what multiplayer co-op has meant in gaming. Mostly. Most of the time, you get to replay through the single-player campaign with a friend or multiple friends, and they might throw more enemies at you, or they might slightly increase the difficulty, but it doesn't really make things that much more difficult because, of course, you have people by your side that are bearing the additional difficulty load. And you don't really get that sense you're cooperating with one another. In Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2, simply put, you had to get from point A to the safe zone at point B, and you had to stick together. You couldn't run off on your own and just sort of, play lone gun. If you did that, if you went solo, you were going to die. You guys actually had to, work together.
Yeah, and well, are we going to start talking about Evolve?
We sure are.
Because I was about to jump on it, but so I was in every single version of that game, like early alpha, early beta, and whatnot. And I was excited at first before I played it. Then I played it, and after the first 4 or 5 hours, I was like, there's not a lot to this game, actually. And the most disappointing thing for me was that it lacked the crazy moments that you have actually Left 4 Dead. Like, when there's just one guy left and everything's going to shit, and somehow he becomes the hero because he solves the whole situation. Like, the crazy randomness of Left 4 Dead that sometimes you can have. And in Evolve is kind of like, I don't know, it's always the same pattern, at least from what I played. They didn't play the final version, mind you, so maybe they made some dramatic changes. I doubt it, because I've seen I don't know if you've seen the review page on Steam for that game, the user reviews.
I haven't checked out the user reviews, but I've been reading a lot of stuff on, Reddit, GAF, and lots of different other places on the internet.
A fucking massacre. And granted, half of them, it's about the DLC, and we're going to talk about that. But the other half, they actually make good points about the game, and I agree with them, because it's just not, I don't know, special enough? I don't know what to say. I mean, it's not a bad game, but I feel like it's in between late to the party and not great. I don't know how to explain that.
Well, I mean, let's back up for a second here, and we're sort of glossing over a lot of generalities about the game, like, you know, what sort of happens when you get into it. But specifically, for anybody who doesn't know what Evolve is about, the game, more or less, is you have a team of hunters, and they go up against a monster. Instead of you being the hunted like you were in Left 4 Dead, the hunters primarily are doing the hunting. Of course, the thing that's different about Evolve is that the person that the hunters are hunting is a monster, and another gamer, not another piece of AI, gets to control this monster. Now, since you have been a part of the beta and alpha, Gabe, why don't you explain to us a little bit more what happens from the beginning of a certain match to the end, how it all plays out?
Basically, at the beginning, the monster is a piece of shit. Like, it goes down with very few bullets. But the monster has these stealth abilities, and he can feed of other creatures, and he can evolve, actually, into a bigger one and bigger one. And the problem with the game, and the hunters are hunting him, and there's the medic, you have pretty much the usual classes that you have in any modern FPS. The problem that I found at the beginning was that it's always the same thing. Like, it turns into some sort of pattern. Sometimes it's weird. It's a weird game, and I didn't find it. I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. And I'm big on oh my god, I'm gonna fuck up the word, asymmetric multiplayer. Is that the word?
Isometric?
Okay, like different teams with different abilities. I don't know.
Is it because you were more or less expecting, though, that because of Turtle Rock's legacy behind them with Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2, that you were expecting more craziness? Because to me, when I heard about Evolve, I knew it was going to be different than Left 4 Dead, and I expected it to be different, but I was still really excited because that I knew that this dev team, once they owned in on something, they could execute. And what I was getting more was that you were going to have sort of a slow-moving experience getting into the game because you were on the hunt. But then once you started corralling the monster, so to speak, and getting into things, and the monsters started to evolve, that's when things would start to get more and more intense. Is that beginning part of these matches that were throwing you off?
It's the whole thing. It's literally. I'm sorry that I'm repeating myself, but I guess I'm just like the game. It's always a repetition of itself. I didn't find it. Yeah, I said craziness, but I don't think that there's that much variety to it. And to answer your question, no, the development team didn't affect me in the least. I was really excited about the fact that the teams were completely different in the matter of mechanics, because I've always been a huge fan of that. Even back in some of the guys that played it surely would remember, Splinter Cell, I forget the subtitle, it was the second one, I believe, in which you had spies versus guards. And the spies, it was 2-on-2, and the spies you played as you play Splinter Cell, like the normal way. The guards, however, were in first person. It was a totally different game. And it was so fucking great. Like, I don't know how many hours I spent on that game. So I'm a big fan of that mechanic, of having really two completely different teams. This game just didn't really. I'm sorry, because I really wanted to like it. So, yeah.
See, I wanted to get your perspective on that, really, not to put you on the spot so much, but because I haven't played the game, and here we are talking about Evolve, and I haven't even played it. But the reason why I'm bringing it up today and why we're discussing this game, it has nothing to do with the gameplay. I wanted to hear about it. I wanted other people to hear about it so that they knew sort of what the game was about. So I thank you for discussing your experience with the alpha and beta, which, as you said, isn't the final version of the game. So there might be a bit more variety to it. We don't really know. The reason why we're talking about it, though, is that I guess I have to go back for a second and provide a little bit of historical perspective on this about DLC, because that's what it really all boils down to with this game. More specifically, how it all started with consoles. And I know it's been around for a long time, but really it started gaining traction. More traction on the original Microsoft Xbox console. Third-party developers utilize DLC, and Gabe, you can jump in at any time if I'm incorrect in anything that I'm stating here, but third parties mostly utilize DLC as something they'd give out for free in order to entice people to keep playing their game and to get their game more exposure so that, you know, more and more people would play it. Where at the same time, Microsoft said, the first-party developer, they said, we bet people are going to spend money for this stuff, so we're going to charge for our content. So they did. And it seemed to work well enough for them, because when they started creating their next console, the Xbox 360, they designed that whole thing with the store in mind. And not only the store, they came up with their own financial ecosystem with Xbox Live Points, which was designed in such a way that if you bought a certain amount of points, you bought something on the store, you would always have some points left over. So you always had that little mental tick going saying, I have some points, I don't want them to go to waste, I have to buy more points so I can buy something else. And this sort of thing introduced DLC, which started bringing in DLC packs, where they would put lots of little pieces of DLC into packs. And then eventually what we're seeing as of late, more and more and more and more, are season passes, which for me is where things really got screwed up. Because I don't have anything against DLC per se. If you want to buy something cosmetic, I don't care. It's your money. Who else cares? It's not going to affect gameplay for other people. Eventually that changed, and there are some things that were introduced that did affect gameplay. But for the sake of discussion and to keep things a little bit more concise, we'll speak generally here. Generally speaking, a lot of it has been cosmetic. DLC packs is the same sort of thing. You're buying stuff that is already on the marketplace. It's just more convenient to buy it all together. Season passes, however, they were asking you to buy something sight unseen up front. And I want to take a moment with a season pass to define what season has meant. When I think of a season pass in regards to a video game, it's been very similar to television. And by that I mean when somebody says, oh, this TV show is on its 9th season, you assume automatically it's in its 9th year. A season is a year. I remember a lot of games back on the Xbox 360 and PS3, they would say, we're going to have 4 DLC packs released throughout the next year. But if you buy the season pass now, you'll save $5 and you'll be insured to receive all of that stuff. Then after the year was over, of course, they would release it all into a special edition or Game of the Year edition. But 1 year was the time frame. That's important. We're going to have to come back to that a little bit later on. Point is, though, is that with season passes, you didn't know what you were getting. There weren't screenshots. There wasn't a lot of buzz. Very, 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 very vague. Just buy it now. Save $5. And that's done quite well as well. The whole pattern with everything that I've just said is that they've been edging, little by little by little, conditioning people to be okay with these business practices as time has went on. And now, Evolve, in my opinion, is about the worst of the worst. Gabe?
It's not the worst of the worst. It's just a new beginning.
That's a very diplomatic way to put it, you little ass kisser.
No, it's just that there's going to be that guy that takes one for the team, right? And Evolve is that guy. And because everyone wants to do what Evolve did. So
that's the problem. That's the problem, Gabe.
I've been saying this shit for 5 years, and everybody was like, no, it's never gonna happen. They're never gonna drain our wallets like this. They're never gonna be this big of an asshole. And yeah, it's all fucking happening. I hate being a doom prophet, but I feel like Houdini, when he was like busting all the mediums, the talk with spirits, it's not because he was an asshole. He wanted to be proven wrong because he wanted to talk to his dead mother. And I'm the same. I want the video game industry to prove me wrong and just fucking surprise me with free shit, which is not free anyway, but like just a fair business model, which there's not really, aside from 2 or 3 developers.
Well, you said the key word here, business model. And business model, let's take a look at this business model. The business model, for starters, some time ago, Evolve, 2K Studios, and Turtle Rock, they put up on the website like a layout for like their DLC plan.
Oh, wait, by the way, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you here.
Sure.
I think Evolve is the first game in history where a DLC was presented before the fucking game. Like there wasn't even a single screenshot of the game. We didn't have it, but we knew exactly what the DLC was going to be, the first one. So that's it. I never seen that before.
It's not that surprising though. But this DLC plan, as you said, was very. It was put up on the website, and they explained everything. And as time went on, I mean, people were just looking at this thing on the website, and it could not have been more convoluted. I mean, people who actually follow like gaming and the DLC, and they know what they're looking at most of the time and what they're talking about, they had no fucking clue what to make out of this DLC thing. It was so convoluted, I shit you not. If you go to Reddit and you go to other parts of the internet, there were people that would literally try to help other people out by listing everything in Excel spreadsheets and then posting the link to the spreadsheet so that it was, you know, a bit more concise. And even then, if you find these Excel spreadsheets online, I encourage you to go and look them up. It still confuses the shit out of me, and usually, I'm pretty good with this sort of thing. And the problem I have with that right off the bat is that this sort of thing, it's supposed to be the publishers and the devs' key to your wallet, so to speak. They're laying out a plan so you can prepare in advance what you want to buy. Okay? If it's that convoluted, I mean, because this is the key to your wallet, they had to have known, right? I mean, that's the assumption that I get, that they had to have known that this was going to confuse people, which makes me say they probably wanted it that way.
I don't know if they knew that this shit was going to confuse people, because I remember another spreadsheet about the different editions of Watch Dogs. You remember that image?
Oh, I remember. Same sort of bullshit.
Yeah. Based on where you buy it, what edition you buy, and then you cross-reference this with that, and what you're gonna get. I mean, it's just fucking insane. It's completely. One thing that pisses me off incredibly is that I believe I saw it on an Evolve press kit. Maybe I have it here somewhere.
Gabe, why do you have a press kit?
No, it's not here. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it was that. And I saw that they were giving away with, I don't know if it was a pre-order or something, a skin or a character or a monster. A skin or
I think it was a monster.
And the definition was it has a market value of $14.99. Like, what? It's like, I know with gold how much a piece of gold is worth, but they get to make the market value, like, okay, me swiping the card to buy that as a market value of fucking $50, so give me the change. I mean, I don't know if you get what I mean, but it's full bullshit everywhere, and it pisses me off in an incredible way.
Oh, me too. And the reason why is that while I'm really unsettled by what they're trying to push with their DLC business model with Evolve, in a way, at the same time, I'm looking at it from a business perspective and I'm saying, this is genius what they're doing. Because basically what they're doing is they're looking at the way everything typically works and they're saying, how can we bastardize that in some way, but get away with every single bit of it based on technicalities? And what I mean by that is that the DLC plan itself, in short, because again, as I said, it's very convoluted. You have the core game, which is $60. Then they were going to sell a special edition of the game, including the season pass, at $80. These are all United States pricing, of course. I'm sure it costs you an arm and a leg more where you're from, Gabe. So now after that, the special edition of the game, as I said, included the season pass. Now, as I said, when you think of season pass, you think, oh, great, that means I'll be entitled to, content for the next year. But very, very sneakily, it was the Hunter's season pass, which they're sort of redefining what a season pass is. It's a season pass, but only for the hunters stuff. And the stuff that you're getting for the hunters in the game, the people who are tracking and fighting the monster, it's all just skins. Stuff that basically costs them nothing to produce. Boom, an easy $20 that they're making off of you right there if you buy the limited edition of the game, sight unseen, based on the fact that you're going to see Season Pass and think, oh good, I get everything. But guess what? You're not getting everything. The coolest shit is left off of the table for the Season Pass, most notably the monsters, which you said goes for a value of $14.99, which blows my fucking mind.
Yeah, but what I'm curious about is how can they say what the market value of the monster is? Like, I guess we need some kind of a stock market for characters and decide how much an extra character in a game is worth. Like,
this is how they do it.
An extra character. What the fuck are they pulling off?
This is a tie. Okay, I can just put one end and loop it in the other, and look how useful it is. You can wrap some cords up, and you can tie them together. Look at this. Now this thing probably only cost. Yeah, this thing might have only cost like 3 cents to produce, but guess what? I'm going to say the market value of this is $7.99. Fuck you.
That's insane. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's like, it's insane that they convince you that that's what it's worth.
Yeah. But I'm not even so sure. I want to interject here, Gabe, because the thing is, we have a history of what certain things with DLC costs. And what they're asking for the monster is... it's out of control because, all right, one of the major things that caused a lot of controversy about this game on the internet is the fact that they were being sort of labeled as devious little shifters in regards to this very, very convoluted DLC plan, and everybody's saying, you're really just doing like no good shady shit. And the devs actually came out and were like, we don't like that. That's not cool. Like, we think we're being, fair. Everything that we're providing for DLC, it's merely optional for the game. Now, when they say optional, they're very careful not to say that it's not just cosmetic stuff. Most of it probably is. The monsters might even be cosmetic itself. Go ahead, Gabe. Jump in. I know you want to.
Yeah, I'm gonna bust your balls about that. Because I've heard many times how cosmetic is okay when it's DLC because it doesn't impact the gameplay and blah, blah, blah. And I have a big fuck you to everyone thinking like that. The reason is it doesn't affect gameplay. It's maybe it's worse because it affects game design. And people seem to not realize that. Like, if I can make the best looking character ever, okay, and multiple skins or whatever, well, maybe I'm just going to make it acceptable so I can sell the game, and then the coolest shit, I can sell it in a separate way. And people seem to not grasp the concept. But it's fucking dangerous because if it could start with cosmetics, but what if some cosmetic item gives you an ability, and then 2 abilities, and then it's a fucking never-ending cycle. And people still to this day tell me, don't worry if it's cosmetic, and fucking just watch. And 5 years from now, I'm gonna still be here and say, I fucking told you, motherfuckers.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people called out the devs saying it doesn't sound like, based on what everything's going to be, that it's going to be purely cosmetic. And one of the things that people point to, myself included, is the fact that the monster itself is $15. Now, granted, the monster is an incredibly important part of the gameplay experience with Evolve, but it really doesn't matter if they were true to their word or not on this, and I'll explain why. They're going to look bad no matter what. $15 for a monster. Let's give them the benefit of doubt, and I haven't played the game, so I don't know if it is just a cosmetic change or not, but let's just say it is. If it is, $15 is way too freaking much to charge for this thing. I mean, there are entire 6-hour campaigns, DLC campaigns that have been available for prior games. Infamous 2 had that vampire DLC campaign. Infamous Second Son had First Light. Far Cry 3 had Blood Dragon, and that stuff went for $15, $20.
And Tiny Tina Assault on Dragon Keep, that to me it's almost worth the price of the full game. Very good DLC.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's stuff that's out there that's got a lot of content to it, relatively a lot. I mean, obviously it's not as much as the core game. It's not supposed to be. It's DLC, but $15 for a cosmetic change is insane, because we do have precedent that $15 will get you a 6-hour campaign. Now, let's say that they are being, that they are deceiving people. If they're deceiving people, then it's not a cosmetic change, and $15 you're spending to essentially change the gameplay, which should not be acceptable for a heavily multiplayer-based game.
They've been honest, though, because right at the beginning they said, I'm not sure they even called it a game. They said it's a platform, it's a DLC platform, or a DLC hub, or something like that.
You're right.
It's like, well, I don't know what to say to that. I mean, you admitted it in the first place, so whatever. And also, another reason why people got so riled up about this whole thing was some professional journals not reporting the right thing because they couldn't do the math. So
yeah, basically a lot of people were saying, oh my god, it's $145 of DLC on top of the game, which technically speaking, if you want to tally everything up, is kind of accurate, but not really, because if you were to go through and buy every single item in the in the store, if you were allowed to do that, you'd have to buy certain things twice, because some things do come in packs and stuff that are not, that you can still buy separately. So basically what you're going to be doing overall is you're going to spend $60 for the core game, and then you're going to spend maybe $70, $80, $85 for the rest of the DLC. And you don't have to buy all of it. I'm not sitting here and saying that they're trying to sell you $145 worth of content, period. I'm just saying that that the way that they approach this business model it's bad. They're asking way too much money for certain things that they say is only supposed to, pretty much be cosmetic. And I think it's bad for the future of video gaming, because I think the most dangerous aspect of this, again, is they're trying to redefine how you can get away with getting more out of this season pass idea.
They should make a TV series, there's How to Get Away with Murder. They should make a TV series called How to Get Away with DLC. That would be awesome.
Ah, yeah. No, it wouldn't be awesome. I'd fucking throw my TV out the window. But yeah, this could affect the future a great deal. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gabe.
Yeah, it's that I'm gonna play old grumpy man here, but the day when they developed the game, it was like, if they had a cool idea, a cool design, a cool whatever, they were like, yeah, fucking, let's throw it in. Let's throw it in the game so more people will like it and we can sell more of the game. Now it's like, yeah, this is so cool. Sell it separately. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not gonna buy anything. Let's see where it goes. And I hope more people do that. I actually, I don't know. I have no idea how I didn't get fired this month and you know the story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. I wrote a big special about business models. And
by the way, before you continue, you mentioned you're talking about writing a special. You're talking about, I got all blurry there for a second. I don't know what the hell happened. You also were talking about receiving a press kit. What exactly is it that you do, Gabe?
Oh God, I work for the PlayStation, the official PlayStation magazine, because they're pretty anal about the official part. And I wrote a big piece about business models and all the risks that there are with the modern business models in video gaming. And I'm surprised how much rope they gave me, because, yeah, I got away with everything that I wrote. So I'm pretty happy. I wouldn't have gotten away in many outlets with what I wrote. So yeah, kudos to them for that.
But as you were saying.
Yeah, sorry, I got sidetracked. I lost it for a second.
No, that was my fault, because I wanted people to know what you were doing.
Oh, it's street cred. I get it. I was saying that, yeah, it's changed the whole scenario of how games are built. Like, even just the money that the developers spend in the game itself, as compared to the money that they spend in marketing. It's insane, because games cost way less than the marketing campaign for that game. It's completely crazy, but people eat it up like it's nobody's business. So I don't know.
It may be crazy, but it works. It works. I mean, there are games that are marketed that should not have sold the amount of copies that they sold, but they did because of marketing. Because even though there's a lot of people on the internet that are discussing video games on a daily basis, we're just still a drop in the bucket. For the most part, a lot of the people going out and buying these games are buying them as impulse buys, or they're seeing some trailers on TV or on YouTube before they watch a different video, and they say, I'm going to go out and then buy that. It looks cool, and that's the end of it.
And there's the argument that games nowadays cater to the lowest common denominator. I find it to be true, but so it's true for every industry. Like last year, there were movies that were not for everyone. Definitely, One for All is Birdman, probably.
Ugh.
But,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a movie that you might like, that you might not like. I don't like it, but I like what it tried to do. Like, I like when something different comes up. But the highest grossing movie was, oh my God, Guardians of the Galaxy. Big, loud, explosions, funny, whatever. And it's okay, but just to I'm going to try to tie the whole thing here, and I'm sorry, I'm taking way too much time. The point being, if you compare movies to games, I don't think there's any movie enthusiast that hasn't seen Citizen Kane, okay? And it's fine if you like Guardians of the Galaxy, but you also have to remember kind of all the history of cinema. Games nowadays, I see kids that are gamers, that are the new generation of gamers. They don't know, they know nothing about old games.
Yeah, they really don't, and that's something that you've been sort of talking with me about more and more, and I have not been really all that willing to jump in that mindset and make it a generational thing. I don't want to throw any blanket statements over anything. It's nothing I ever want to do. But the more I think about it, and the more interaction that I have with people online, because I'm on Reddit, for example, on a daily basis, getting into conversations and debating with people about video games and video game history. I mean, when I go online and I say things like, listen, just because they have the ability to tap into your console and upload a patch on day one doesn't mean that they should. If there's something genuinely wrong with the game that they missed, okay. But the fact that they're extending their development cycle in order to get the most out of their time so that they can push a game out unfinished just to meet a certain date on the calendar that they said that one, so that it's going to compete with other games the right way. It doesn't mean that it's okay. And when I say that, younger people are saying to me, you need to get with the times. Like you're 32, you're an old man. Like, I don't think 32 is old, but they're like, you're an old man. You know what? We should be happy that they should be able to fix our games over the internet, and that's the way it is, and you're going to have to get used to it.
Yeah.
So
I absolutely agree. I mean, a patch, like, you put a patch on yourself when you're hurt, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's amazing that we have the ability to have our games fixed. But when I think of a game that needs fixing, I'm thinking of a finished product, and somehow, somewhere, someone discovered a game-breaking glitch, and so they upload a fucking 100K patch for that tiny bit of game. Nowadays,
wait, you mean we're not supposed to be downloading 16 gigabytes in order to fix our games?
Yeah, but if I don't turn on my PS4 every, I don't know, three or 4 days or so, I'm not even gonna be able to play when I want to, because there's just bajillions of gigabytes of patches for every fucking game. It's insane. And while in some cases it's even a good thing, I would have never expected back at launch day to say something like this, but I really like what Blizzard is doing with Diablo. They're patching, but they're adding content. Now, how meaningful that is, it's not up for debate. Like, someone could say it's trivial content, it's not important, whatever. But they're not, like, fixing the game. The game works. They're just, adding stuff, little things here and there, which is nice.
Well,
unfortunately, in the minority.
Yeah. The thing is that also another thing that I've come across in my discussions an awful lot is that when I'm talking about things and I'm trying to say that businesses should treat their consumers better, at least in this particular industry, every industry really, but I mean, we're talking about games here. There's some people that sort of argue with me that consumers are the ones who have set this precedent. And, to a certain extent, they're right. But I don't want to get on board with the they have nobody to blame but themselves mindset. Because at the same time, even though it's common knowledge that the average consumer probably doesn't do a lot of research on stuff before they buy it and think about this sort of stuff before they go out and spend $60 on a game, the publishers know what they're doing. They are planning on taking advantage of consumer ignorance, and that's what they're doing, and especially in this case with Evolve. And if you want a perfect example to showcase this, we've heard of bull shots at this point, where they show you like a year in advance what a game is going to look like, on a screenshot, and then when the game actually comes out, it doesn't actually look like that. It's been degraded, and then everybody cries foul. Well, those are bull shots. Well, now what we have bull statistics. In order to make things sound more impressive than they really are, like sales-wise, they come up with these figures out of thin air. Like, I know it might not have started with Destiny, but that's when it really, caught my attention. It was like, oh yeah, this many people, unique people, have logged on to Destiny to play. But what they weren't telling you about that, in very impressive number, was that they were counting each character profile. So if one person had 3 characters, each one counted in that statistic. Now, what I'm seeing for Evolve is they're saying in this this picture that they have with all these impressive statistics is that people have played so far cumulatively 108 years worth of game time in this game. Yeah. Let's break this down, Gabe. That's a little over 946,000 hours, okay? Sounds like a fucking lot, right? Now, I don't know what a game has to sell in order to be really successful, but let's say the game, both digitally and physically, sold 100,000 copies. That amounts to less than 10 hours of gameplay time so far per customer, on average. There isn't much competition in the month of February thus far, except for The Order. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So is that really that impressive? I'm sorry.
You said a very low number because 100,000 copies is very low nowadays. So
That's what I figured.
The more you go
impressive.
up, the
less it goes down.
Yeah, the more realistic you get with the number, the number of playing hours goes down. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's not that impressive, and that's the thing. They are planning on taking advantage of consumer ignorance. I mean, I could do the same fucking thing. Guys, I walked 2,000 steps today. Gabe, can you fucking believe it? 2,000 steps? That's only a mile.
What is it?
It's only a mile. It's not that impressive. It sounds, impressive because it's a high number. 2,000 sounds way better than 1, but that's what they're doing here. So since we mentioned the order, let's get down to that game. There's been sort of a hive mind about this game that's been sort of on a roller coaster ever since this game was teased, like a long, long time ago. Like, people were excited as hell for this game. Ready at Dawn's name is on there, okay? Also, SCE, Santa Monica Studios. Both of these studios are best known for their work, thus far with the God of War franchise. Santa Monica Studios for the console iterations, Ready at Dawn for the handheld iterations, all of which were pretty fantastic, if you ask me. But people were expecting great things from this game. As soon as some very early footage came out, which was basically like Gears of War style, stay in cover and pop out every once in a while, shooting gallery kind of stuff, people started hating on this game. They started saying, oh, it looks like a Gears of War clone, blah, 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 blah. On and on and on they went, and then all of a sudden, the hate bandwagon came in the town,
Yeah.
PlayStation Experience came around, and then we saw them sort of rappelling down a blimp, and we saw this firefight in the kitchen, and we saw him, battling QuickTime Event with a werewolf lichen sort of a thing, and then all of a sudden, everybody was wetting their pants again, and they were excited, and they wanted to get the game. And a couple of weeks ago, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, there was a Let's Play style video of this game that popped up on YouTube. It was beginning to end, allegedly, and the game was 5 hours long. And also allegedly, since I've not played it yet, but I do have it back there. My wife bought it for me because she's super awesome. They said, basically half of that 5-hour experience was cutscenes. And then, of course, you have QuickTime events, and then you have some gunplay.
Yeah.
So now, of course, the hate bandwagon is coming, choo-choo. It's rolling into town again, and people are hating on this game.
I don't think I've ever heard so many different complaints about a game. Like, I've heard the complaint that it's too short. I've heard the complaint about the black bars. I've heard the complaint about the fact that there's too many cutscenes. And then I heard the complaint that they are not really cutscenes because they're all quick time events, so they kind of interrupt the cutscene and you have to pay attention. And I mean, it's just never ending. I had a little time with the game way back when it was very early. And I have this ability after it's been probably, I was 4 years old, I'm almost 35, so it's been 30 plus years that I play video games. So now I have this ability to know if I'm gonna like something or not with very little playtime or even just some videos. I knew right away that I would like everything about this game except the game. Now, what I mean by that is that, yeah, I'm in love with the setting. I'm in love with the developers. I'm in love with the design. I even like the black bars. Like, I know why they did it. It's not really a strictly artistic choice. It's also to
get the most horsepower out of the PS4.
Yeah,
by removing pixels from gameplay.
Exactly, and. But yeah, I like everything. It's just not my cup of tea as a game. Not because of length, it's just... Okay, let me start with the Gears of War clone. people are saying that like it's a bad thing. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, Gears of War was not a bad game.
Yeah, and just for the record, from what I'm hearing from a lot of people who actually did play through the game and have pretty much completed it, they're saying it's not really a Gears of War clone anyway.
Yeah. Plus, the shooting mechanic is kind of solid. Again, I didn't play the finished product. The guns feel different enough and whatnot. So people are basically saying it's not a game. That's the main debate that I've heard. Like, that's not a video game. It's something else. It's not a video game. Is supposed to be, if you watch. Okay, this was very mathematical. I read it on Reddit or on NeoGAF. I don't remember, but the guy was saying that if you don't play at least for 50% of the time, it's not a video game. Like, you have to play more than 50% of the time. Yeah, like he says, I feel like I'm watching shit more than I'm playing it, so it's not a video game. And I have a question, because everyone is up in arms about the quick times and whatnot, but if you ask any old gamer about the first time that he went into an arcade and he saw Space Ace or Dragon's Lair or Super Donkey Quixote or whatever, the laser games, I don't think there's any debate that those were games.
No. And you know what? Dragon's Lair to this day is still a coveted classic that many people love to play time and time again.
Exactly. Now, I understand that back in the day it was done like that because there was no way to have something interactive with that level of graphic fidelity and animation. And I mean, it was the shit. If you saw it for the first time in an arcade, you were like, whoa, what is that? Nowadays, I understand that we kind of demand to be more involved, okay, in the game, because we actually are at a point in which technology can allow graphics like Dragon's Lair to be real time and whatnot. But also, I don't understand this definition of what a game is and what is not. Like, who dictates that?
Pretty much ignorant people. Can I say that? Ignorant people? I don't know. That's the thing. You know, there are a lot of different complaints about the Order 1886, and for anybody who it's just not their cup of tea, like you said, that's fine. You can have a whole slew of reasons that you don't enjoy the game, but the fact of the matter is that the thing that people have really hammered down in this game for is its length, and that's the whole big discussion. This is what's taking place front and center in the conversation. Yeah, there's all the other stuff about QuickTime events and everything, and that's in the conversation. But primarily, people are having a quality equals quantity debate. And it blows my mind, because I know to take one of your sayings, Gabe, I'm gonna play old man here for a minute, but I mean, the other night I sat down on an original Nintendo and I played Contra, the original Contra, which is still, like, for me, one of the most amazing games of all time. I beat it in half an hour, and I'm happy with it. I mean, it's still an intense, action-packed game. Contra 3, like, times 10 even, but it can still be beaten within, like, 35 minutes. I mean, I don't know. I know times have changed and everything like that, and maybe it has something to do with the fact that we have the indie scene on the consoles now, and they're selling a lot of these pickle-style games that are similar in style and length, and they're selling them for, $10 or $15 a pop, and that's what people expect. And that, those style games, because it's an indie game, it has to be short for some reason, and, all the AAA title games have to be, like, 30, 40 hours, otherwise it's not worth their time. But that's
I swear to God, I saw a review of that game complaining about the length, and then in the closing comments or whatever, like, he made a big deal of the fact that there's no leveling system and that there's no upgrade system in the weapons, like the grinding mechanics to. So I don't get it. Like, isn't that an artificial length to the game? Like, if you have to grind to, like, and speaking of reviewers, now I'm gonna go in a little bit of a rant here. I told you this in chat the other day when we were talking about this and whatnot. Now, I hope I'm not going to get in trouble for this. I know many journalists that work for online outlets. The reviews, like, people are surprised by the low scores of this game. They shouldn't, because I'm not going to say that everyone does it, because I don't know every single journalist that works for an online publication, but a lot of them, what they do before they review a game, they gauge the internet. Like, they see what people are saying about the game, and then they just go with the flow. Not because they don't have their own opinion, but because you fucking need those damn clicks, and you need to be right, and you need to validate people's opinion. So it's kind of reviewing in reverse. I'm going to ask you a question. Do you ever happen to stumble across a review, like an 8 or 9 review, and then you read the whole fucking piece, and it doesn't sound like an 8 or a 9? Like, there's that discrepancy a difference between the final score and the text.
I will say it might be actually a little bit of the opposite. I sometimes see games where it's actually like maybe like a 7 or an 8, where it sounds like it might be a 9. But on the other hand, I see games that have, oh man, how can I articulate this? The review scores, if they're high, what I end up seeing is that there's a lot of positive things being said about a game, but if there are issues, they spend virtually no time talking about those issues, except for maybe just, but off on the side, just as a side note, there's a little bit of bugs, in this aspect of the game, but it's not really a big deal. It doesn't really affect the overall gameplay. Well, one of the most notorious times that I can bring up was the launch of Battlefield 4, because that's exactly what fucking IGN did, and then all of a sudden after that, they ended up putting like a paragraph in the top part that said, "Oh, well, there's issues with the game. We'll keep you updated on this as updates become available and as they fix the game or whatever." And apparently that was justified, journalism for them. And I think one time Dan Stapleton, I ran into him on Reddit, and I asked him about that. I'm like, you guys got to stop doing this review in progress bullshit and stop hammering out your reviews the minute they go live, especially for a multiplayer heavy game, because you have to experience these games on the same servers that we're going to be playing on, not a server that you get flown to a hotel in Vegas for, and they feed you and they give you drinks for 3 days while you sit in a room and can do nothing but play this game for 2 or 3 days, and then you have to go home and write about it. You have to play this game in the same conditions as everyone else is going to play those games. How do you respond to that? And he was pretty much like, well, do you have an example? And I was like, well, yeah, Battlefield 4. And he's like, well, we addressed that in a review. And he linked me to the Battlefield 4 review where they have that paragraph at the top where they mention it. I was like, yeah, but you fucking added that after you posted the original review on day one, where people were reading that and saying, oh, Battlefield 4 is awesome, I gotta go buy it.
Yeah. Was Battlefield 4 one of the games that they had the backdrop for on the website? I'm just asking.
Yeah, it probably was. I wouldn't be surprised.
I want to be apologetic for a second in regards to journalists, because sometimes I see reviewers getting shat on because they didn't mention like microtransactions or whatever, something that some players care about, me being one of them. But it's also true that sometimes we get copies that don't have that shit. We're gonna review a game and we have no idea that some stuff is gonna be there.
Didn't that happen with Assassin's Creed Unity?
Exactly. So yeah, sometimes they're at fault, sometimes they're completely not at fault. So yeah. And by the way, I never review games. I don't do reviews. I actively refuse to review games. So
unless it's unless it's going to be Metal Gear Solid, right?
I'm still debating with myself if I should review it, because I'm the Metal Gear guy of the magazine. but also, man, I just want to play it. Like, I don't want to play it to review it. I just want to fucking lay back and just play the fuck out of it. So, yeah.
I can see why you would refuse it based on that. I agree. So
people think that. Sorry, just
no, it's fine.
Things. We have time. I've been up until this hour, so I'm going to keep you awake until it's.
Hey, we have all the time in the world. It's been 2 months. We'll take our time. God damn it.
Because I saw a thread on NeoGAF about a guy that was asking advices about writing and starting a gaming blog and whatnot. Many people think that it's like, if you say to any gamer, a random one or a casual one, that you write for a video game magazine or a publication or a website, and you do that for a living, they think it's the best job in the world. They think you get to play games and all the time and write about them. They have no idea what it means to review a game. Like, it's exciting maybe the first or the second time, because in their mind it's like, oh, I would totally review, I don't know, Final Fantasy VII, my favorite game, I would totally do a review for that. The problem is, when you get to review a game, you don't know that it's going to be your favorite game of all time. It could be the worst time you've ever had in your life, okay? So when you go in, you go in a state of mind that it's not, I'm going to enjoy this game. It's like, okay, this is work, and I have to write, and I probably have a fucking deadline haunting on me. So, it's not that easy. So the only advice I could give to that guy is write a lot and see if you can do it, because it's not that easy.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, and I know we're off topic here. So if there is anybody that is out there and you want to write and you feel like maybe your writing's not up to snuff, I'm not going to sit here and say that I feel like my writing is great or anything like that. I routinely pass my writing to other people, like Gabe, for example, so I can get opinions on whether or not it's good, because I don't have that sort of confidence in my own writing to say, yeah, but I can say, without any ego or doubt whatsoever, a long time ago, I started writing for a DVD and Blu-ray review website, and this was before Blu-rays even. It was just DVDs, and I actually was let go from that site. I mean, it was, I didn't get paid or anything. I got to keep review copies, but my writing sucked. It was terrible, and they let me go. I came back a year later because I said, look, I've been just writing on my own because I love to do it. And I think my writing has gotten a lot better. So they took a look at another sample of my writing, and they said, okay. And they brought me back on board, and I had been writing for them ever since again. And with every review I've done, I felt my writing has just gotten better and better and better and better. And over the years, even though I'm not going to say I'm great at writing, because I don't personally believe it, because it is my writing, I sort of feel like, it's not up to some standard or anything, but I will say that I'm content with my writing. So you'll get there. Just keep doing it and stick with it. But so we can get back into the discussion with the order, the whole thing about video game length really bothers me. And again, it's because we grew up in a time, here's that historical perspective again, where again, games could be beaten in a half an hour, an hour, or 2 hours. There were a few RPGs that came along that, would have taken 30 or 40 hours, sure, but they were not the norm. Those were the special games, and that's why back then RPGs gained such, feverishly loyal fans. Because very few games offered that kind of experience. Most of the time it was platforming. Most of the time it was short games, but you could play a short game for 100 hours because it was so damn hard you couldn't beat it. You had to replay it and replay it and replay it.
But it was still damn good.
Yeah, exactly. Super Ghouls and Ghosts is a game I have never beat legitimately, but I still play it almost more than most other Super Nintendo games to this day. So, but the thing is that this whole discussion with the Order 1886 is about the game being too short, while, it seems like that's what everybody agrees upon. The other side of the coin, there's somebody else that wants to argue that video games are too long. PBS game show host Jamin Warren he made a video on the PBS Game Show. You can find those videos on YouTube. I have it linked on the Byte-Size-Impressions.com because I wrote an article about this. But he's arguing quite the opposite. He's arguing that they're too long. And for his argument, he brings up some examples of games that are too long, needlessly long. The first one he brings up is Forza Horizon 2, which is the racing game on Xbox One, and 15 hours. 15 hours is what he cites for the gameplay time. The next game that he brings up is Grand Theft Auto 5, which he's willing to play twice. He played it the last-gen iteration, and now he's going to play the remastered iteration, and the game time frame for that is 35 hours. So he's going to spend 70 hours playing Grand Theft Auto 5, but he's okay with that because he has fun with the game. Then he brings up Dragon Age Inquisition, which is also a 70-hour game, but he goes into like sensationalist mode over it and says that the prospect of the gameplay length for Dragon Age Inquisition made him weep inside. There are games that are out there that put in a lot of padding in order to, draw more people in, because there are people out there who legitimately want to get the most out of their games. They say, if I'm going to drop $60 on maybe only 2 or 3 games a year, I want to get my money's worth because I'm not rich. I can't afford to buy like 20 games every year. But he argues that, and this is his quote, games are far and away, on average, longer than any other medium on the planet. For example, during the 276 hours that this Tumblr user spent playing Call of Duty, I could watch every movie on the AFI 100, finish the works of Tolstoy, and listen to most of the major works of 20th century pop music. And then later on, he goes on to state, so I can't help but notice when I feel like video games are wasting my time.
Why the fuck do you play them?
You said it, not me. No, I mean, basically, that's the whole thing about it. It's that, if there's anything that this issue with the Order 1886, and so many people are complaining that the game is too short, and then we have other people like Jamin Warren complaining that maybe games are too long. Maybe. Just maybe, if we want to use the film analogy again, we should just fucking let the artists who are designing these products make what they want to make, and then you can decide if it's for you or if it's not for you. You can play it or not play it.
It's amazing the fact that you can actually not buy a product if you don't like it. So I don't know what the fucking issue is. I mean, I can agree or disagree that 5 hours, 7 hours, whatever the order is too short for $70. I can get behind that reasoning. Like, let's say a guy has only fucking $100 a month for gaming, or every 2 months, like he doesn't have much money. I can understand that guy willing to buy a game that keeps him entertained for 70 hours, like Dragon Age or whatever. Like, I can get behind the reasoning. But don't get mad if a game comes out and it's not 70 hours. Like, just don't fucking buy it. And so I don't understand the fucking argument. It's like, you have the power, dude. You have the wallet. Do whatever the fuck you want.
It's just like if you hear something on the radio. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, I don't get why people get pissed. I think they get pissed because they probably, I don't know, believed it was something else, which might totally tie into the marketing problem.
Oh yeah, high expectations galore.
Yeah, so, but the argument is pretty useless, in my opinion. So
it is, because that's the thing. It's like, as I was going to say, it's like if you hear something you don't like on the radio, you can just change the channel. If something comes on TV that you don't want to watch, you're not just going to sit there and watch it for an hour and then later on complain, man, this television show is terrible. No television show should ever be like this. That's your opinion.
Yeah.
You could have changed the channel. You have the power to watch something else. Or, hey, if you don't think you want to watch television that much anymore because there's plenty of other things for you to do in life, you can go do those other things. Nobody's holding your hand and saying, you have to sit down and play video games. We all change. You know what? I've changed a lot over my life. I still enjoy video games, so I still play them. But there's a lot of people who have probably, for lack of a better phrase for it, have probably grown out of video games, and that's okay too. John Warren was saying, you know, it's hard for me to work and deal with a family and have some semblance of a social life and still have time to play video games. Well, that's fine, but he makes it sound like what he's doing then is that when a popular game is released, he feels like he has to rush through it so he can play the next big game that's coming out. Well, why do you have to do that? You know what's coming up on the release calendar. Right? So why don't you pick the game that you think is going to best suit you? It doesn't mean it's going to be a good game, but pick the game that you think is going to best suit your tastes and sensibilities and sit down. And if it's a 60-hour game, play the shit out of it at an hour at a time if you have to. That's what I've been doing with The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. I'm still only a little more than halfway through the game, but I've been playing it for like a month and a half, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So
I nothing to add to that. Like, perfect reasoning right there. So
yeah, seriously. I mean, but the thing is, he takes it a step further, and this is the major problem that I have, because he feels like because video games, or a lot of video games, don't suit his sensibilities or lifestyle anymore. What he's proposing is a change in the industry instead of just, again, as I said, letting the artists do what they do and then letting people decide. He says video games, just like graphical sliders and difficulty sliders, they should have story sliders. So that way, if you want to play a 50-hour campaign, you could play like a 15-hour campaign instead.
That was the stupidest thing I've ever heard in any fucking thing. Like, it's like a guy saying, look, I really hate the color red. Like, I really fucking hate it. So all the painters in the world should make a double version of their paintings, and one which there's no red at all, because I don't like it.
Yeah, basically, and the thing is, somebody else, a writer, Ben Kuchera, he's Polygon, I believe.
Yeah. Oh God.
Okay. He sort of jumped. He sort of kind of like gets onto the whole thing and sort of agrees with John Warren, and to a certain extent he still believes, you know, people should still have a choice, whatever. But one of the things that he brought up is that it seems to make sense what he's saying, though, because if a lot of games have so much filler, he's saying, the sensible thing to think is that if a video game, its development cycle is going to be cut shorter if they cut out all the fat and then they just make a solid, 6, 7, 8 hour game instead of a 40-hour, waste of time. That means that games are going to be cheaper to make, and if games are cheaper to make, then the savings are going to be passed down to us. No. They're fucking not. Games used to be, as I said, like a half an hour long. And I remember maybe 7, 8 hour games on the N64. Like I remember paying like $75, at retail for some of those games.
I still have my NES collection right there with the price stickers. So I can pull that shit up anytime you want, and it's fucking expensive. So
yeah, I mean it is. And the thing is that man, the thing is that games used to cost more. Not all of them. Some of them I know they were released back in the day at maybe a $45, $50 price point. Some of them at $60, some of them at more. But as time has progressed, they sort of settled on to $60 as the sweet spot. And with that, though, it's something that we need to keep in mind, that the gamer base over the last few decades has grown substantially. Exactly. So while everybody is sort of online trying to reason, well, they could just raise the price of the games, it's been $60 forever. Yeah, that's kind of true to a certain extent, but do you realize how many more people are playing video games now than they used to? There's still some people out there who feel this way, but not everybody out there feels like video gaming is to be treated like a toy anymore, which is when we were growing up and we were playing Nintendo, that's what it was looked at. It wasn't a valid art form. It was a toy.
wasn't cool. It wasn't. You were the cool kid because you had video games, but after the kid stage passed, you were a moron if you kept playing video games.
I've got a friend, and I love this guy. He's one of my best friends. I grew up around the corner from him, and like he works. You know, he goes and he works for the town all day, and then he comes home, and on his entire nights and weekends, he's in his garage and he's doing blacksmithing. Like, he's got a forge running in his garage. He's got a power hammer where he puts his foot on the wheel and he puts the bar in there, and the fucking hammer's going bang, 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 because there's a tire up there spinning that shit around. And then he's over on, he's got like 5 anvils in his garage because they serve different purposes, and he has other people that comes and forges with him, and they're sitting there cling, 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 like every fucking day and night. And he's like, I hate watching people waste their time on video games. I'm like, fuck you, dude. Like, to each their own,
And you get home to your virtual blacksmith in your RPG, and you do the same shit on the video.
Yeah, he's like, I made a fucking piece of armor today, and I'm like, dude, I fucking made shit out of dragon bones in Skyrim, and I've got this other thing that I made out of glass, so fuck you.
No, but to tie it with the order and the bitching in general, really, I think there's a new video game in town since quite some years now, which is the bitching game. Like, I have a friend that he never fails to tell me how you can spell ignorant without IGN, and look at how shitty their review is of this game and that game. And every single time IGN posts a review, I don't know it because I visit IGN. I know it because he visits IGN just to bitch about the review. And I'm like, why the fuck are you even going there if you have to? Like, people can't wait to voice their opinion against something, and it's tying into every direction. Like, even the feminists and whatnot, like, every single thing has to have something wrong with it. It's either too short, or on the more serious side, it's either racist or sexist or high priced or low price. It's like, I don't know. I don't think there's not
enough pixels. There's not enough frames. I got downvoted on Reddit yesterday or a couple of days ago because somebody was like, well, it's too bad they did this. I think it was in regards to the order. It's too bad. It could have been smooth, but no, it's at 30 frames per second. And they said, careful, just because it's at 30 frames per second doesn't mean it can't be smooth. As long as it's stable 30 frames per second, it can be smooth. And I got downvoted to shit for that. Like, what did I say? What did I say? I was just trying to interject a little reasoning there, but, the internet, they don't like that apparently.
Yeah. No, I have a friend like that. Like, I don't care, 60 or 30, like, given the choice, I'd take 60 every single time. But 30, a stable 30 doesn't really bother me.
I mean, weren't there some games on the N64 that ran at like 20?
Oh, there were games in every consoles that had huge frame drops, and you went. Like, we were talking the other day about the old 2D games. Like, we actually, even in arcades sometimes, we had the fucking bullet time of Matrix, like in shoot 'em ups and whatnot, when there was too much shit on the screen, your ship started going, So, and it was fine, but yeah. Anyway,
not only was it fine, like I remember, again, to bring up Super Ghouls and Ghosts, that game, like, you'd be like jumping in the air and you had like a double jump mechanic, and like, all of a sudden you'd have like 3 zombies popping out of the ground, you'd have a wolf flying through the air, and then you'd have like a skeleton in the corner, spitting a fireball at you, and then the game ran at like 4 frames a second. It was like, and you're just like, oh, yay, so much awesome shit is happening at once. Yes. Like, it was awesome. It wasn't like a detriment. It was like, there's so much awesome. Anyway, go ahead.
And I was saying, this guy doesn't understand this reasoning because he's the definition of the PC master race guy. I guess I am too this generation, since I play way more PC than I do on console. But still, this guy is like, I don't know. There's this. He just has to hate on 30 frames per second. But when you make the counter argument then that if it's stable, you're not bothered by it. You're not saying it's better than 60, because that would be incredibly foolish in my opinion. It's not filmic. It's not. I don't buy all this shit. I'm sorry. I can't hear you anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry. I muted myself because I had to clear my throat. But I said exactly. I agree. It doesn't mean I was saying 60 is worse than 30. I'm just saying stable 30 is fine.
Yeah, if it doesn't bother you, it's the same argument of before. Like, if you like it, if there's somebody liking it, why the fuck are you bothered by it?
Which sort of goes back to the generation thing that we were talking about before.
And I'm sorry, because it sounds like I'm hating on younger gamers, but I'm really not, because I know some awesome guys that just go back and play the old games, and they have a better feeling of the new ones as well. Like, I wasn't around when Zork came out. I'm old, but I'm not that old. But I fucking went back and played it just because I wanted to see how the whole media evolved. And I feel like I have a better understanding when I talk with my some of my friends that are not as into gaming as I am. I feel like they're like, sometimes some guy would say, this is such a cool new mechanic. I'm like, no, that's actually not new. It's from 30 years ago, because this guy, and they're like stunned. But they actually go back and see that and say, wow, that's awesome. And they have a different perspective on the new shit.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that the new stuff is all bad by any account, okay? I'm not saying this. I'm just saying, if you, I don't want to use the word culture. I want to use the word. If you educate yourself on where gaming comes from, I think you might also enjoy the newer games more. That's what I'm saying, basically.
I think that's certainly true, and not only that, because there's so much love for games, because not only are there indie games, but take a look at example like of the resurgence of the Donkey Kong Country games on the Wii U. I know you don't have a Wii U, so I don't know if you've played them, but like Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Wii, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze on the Wii U, those games are pretty much like basically a renaissance of the Donkey Kong Country games that were on the SNES. And the games like that can get people to go back and play the original games that started it all and appreciate the old games as well. But the thing is, we're talking about this generational thing, and like you, I'm not trying to say that young gamers are terrible people or anything like that. Not close. I think the asterisk to put on this is that there's just a lack of historical context, which is why a couple of times I bring up in this podcast that we've done regards to DLC and other various things, there's just a lack of historical context with these younger gamers. Like, they don't understand. Like, if you grew up playing nothing but like PlayStation 2 forward, you're used to a certain level of games. You're used to the 3D open world. You're used to more modern style of gaming. You're not used to the games that, had horrific frame drops on the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, the Sega Genesis, the N64, and so on. You're not used to games that didn't have open worlds. You're not used to games where like 99% of the games that you played were linear. But that's where all the complaints are, especially with the Order 2. Linearity is another complaint, and I don't think there's anything wrong with a game that's short. I don't think there's anything wrong with a game that's linear, as long as the experience reaches out to you and you enjoy it and it's fun. Who gives a shit? Who cares if it's linear? Who cares if it's short? As long as it's a solid experience.
There's some notions that some things are objectively bad in a game. And I don't think that such a thing could exist, because it doesn't exist in any form of art or media. I mean, like The Room, the movie.
I was just thinking that. You reached into my brain.
I know, man. We should get married sometimes.
I don't know about that.
many people could say it's objectively a shitty movie, and yet the concept of so bad that it's good exists, and we're a big fan of that fucking movie specifically because it's so bad. So I don't know.
Well, hi, Mark.
Yeah. You're tearing me apart, Lisa. But see, the problem with historical context is also that they don't know that even the business models that we have today, they're not fucking new. They existed in prehistoric times, and they could have been good. Like, I remember expansions. It's a word that I don't hear anymore. But we talked before about the DLCs that actually added a substantial amount of gaming time and content to a game and with a fair price. Now, back in the day, we had expansions that were exactly that. Even things like Season Pass, for example, had its kind of equivalent in what was called shareware. Okay? And you didn't pay with credit card. You paid with a fucking check in the mailbox. But that's how you bought some games, because the developer was like, well, I'm making this part, but I'm not going to go and make all the rest if I don't get money. So you funded the game like that. So there's positive examples even of these business models. It's just that they're fucking ripping us off right now, and people, it seems to be kind of fine with it. I don't know.
Yeah. There was somebody that I saw on the N64 subreddit the other day, and they were crowdfunding through Kickstarter an N64 style game, and it actually looks and sounds really cool. It's very reminiscent of Banjo-Kazooie, Super Mario 64, that sort of thing. It's basically a flashback to the collectathon style stuff that we played back then. And I love those games, and I miss those games so much. And you know what? I want to see that game made, and I'd love to have the chance to play it. But, he was asking for people to help fund this title. But he was very specific in his Kickstarter to explain where this money was going to go. Basically, he wasn't going to be working. He was going to leave his job if he got like $13,000, basically, which would grant him 9 months to be able to design this game. He's already got a lot of the groundwork done, apparently, and he actually has a decent resume. He's worked on stuff that's actually been put out before, I guess. He's worked on certain projects. He's not like somebody that you would know if you said his name, but he has a resume and he has experience and he's got the knowledge, apparently, and it's not like the game hasn't already been worked on to some degree, but he wants to get it done. But he's laid out a plan. These 2 months I'm going to work on this. These 2 months I should be able to do this, and he lays out a whole plan. But there's something that bothers me about somebody that's saying, I'm going to quit my job so I can work on this, and you're going to be paying for my bills. Now, I know you know as well as I know, I went through a similar experience like that last year. And I'm not going to name names, although I fucking should, because it still angers me to this day. But the short story is basically there was somebody that was crowdfunding the idea for a website, okay? And it was the same sort of thing. I'm not working, and this is going to be my job, so I need money. Yeah. Needless to say, the money was fucking squandered away, okay? And based on lots of things, I recollect it was basically blown on video games and alcohol, okay? And this person squandered an opportunity. They had the website designed for free. They took the money, they blew it, and and now the thing is a fucking bust. And so what was the money spent for? So when I see something like this, I'm like, yeah. I can't, because you hear, man, there's even articles about it on a lot of these video game websites, is that most of these projects that you're going to see on Steam Greenlight, on Kickstarter, on Indiegogo, wherever it is, they're not going to happen. You're going to spend your money, your investment's not going to be returned, and that's it.
Maybe my numbers are outdated by now, but the last that I saw was that only between 18 and 22% get actually made. and I'm including early access games on Steam. But wait, I should clarify. They get finished as originally presented, because some of them actually get finished, but it's like it happened with oh my god, what's the name? Space-Based DF9, I believe, by Double Fine, when they were like from 0.9 they went into full release. It like the day before it was not finished, the day after it was finished, but they didn't actually really add anything. I mean, it wasn't as presented. That's basically the gist of it. So yeah. It's a risk. It's always a risk, and I think it's good to believe in an idea, but I'm scared, especially when they get too big. Look at Double Fine with Broken Age. I mean, the game was, again, I could be wrong here, but I think the game was due out in 2012. That's what they initially promised, and it's not even, the whole thing is not even out right now. So.
Yeah, one that I was looking at for a long time was the remake of Battle Chess, because I remembered playing the old Interplay CD on Windows 3.1, which was the better version of the game, because there was also a shitty DOS version of the game, and even shittier original Nintendo version of that game. But the CD with the animations and the sound effects, the better color gamut and everything, I love that game. And then I knew it was like sort of a independently done thing that was going on Steam, that was going to be updated as time went on. I don't even think that game ever got actually like completely fixed or completely finished. Like it's working, it's there, it's got issues, but like I couldn't support it for that reason, because it wasn't, you know, and it's, as you said, it's a risk, and you can support something if you want to, you can do whatever you want, it's your money, but there are too many people that are aware of the internet nowadays, which basically means people know how to exploit things. People know how to tap into things, and they know how to get money from people, and they know how to they know how to get things out of people. Some people are legitimately scam artists. Some people just have their hopes and aspirations set way too high, and they can't get it done. And I don't mind if like somebody is saying, I need more money so I can get a better PC or something, so that I have better equipment so that I can make this happen. I want to hire somebody in the evenings and weekends when I'm not at work to be able to help me to code this game. That's fine. I don't want to pay for your fucking Wheaties, your milk, your electricity, you know, the newspaper you get delivered at the door every morning, the gas in your car, you know, like, I don't know. I kind of draw the line on how anybody else feels about that, but meh, it is what it is. But we were talking about things that have been around in game mechanics for a long time. You know, you bring up Zork and everything like that. No, that's nothing new. That's been around forever. One thing that has not been around forever is stores in consoles. Okay, and we've brought this up earlier in regards to the historical context as far as DLC and how that all went down and everything like that. But these stores have sort of, they've turned into stores. You know, before it was just a place where you buy content, but now there's so much more. They sell you movies, they have passes for music, they sell you the games, the complete digital versions of the games, they sell you DLC, they sell you themes, they sell you this, that, and the other thing, and they sell you, of course, the most importantly of all, they sell you memberships. They sell you PS Plus so that you can play fucking multiplayer. They sell you Xbox Live so you can play multiplayer. This sort of thing, however, though, is that because they're stores, they have sales to entice you to buy more shit, and I feel like we've got a problem here, Gabe.
Yeah, we do. First of all, I'm fully expecting one day to see some appliances sold on the store, or some fucking vacation deal, something, because no, I'm serious. I mean, I bought a fucking console, okay, and I want to stress that I bought it because, despite the fact that they write for magazines, I make it a point to buy every single thing that I own, just so I don't get out of touch with the consumer mind. The problem is that it's trying to sell me fucking everything except for games. Like, it's been many, many months it's happened that I turn on the PS4, go on the store, and there's way more movies than games. And I'm like, okay, I'm not sure I'm your audience anymore. And then I see the sales, and there's such a discrepancy between the stores. Like, I have multiple accounts, and I feel like, I don't know if they think that in Europe we're all fucking rich as fuck, because the sales are ridiculous. Like, it's not a sale if you drop five euros from a game, and at the same time, I go on the US store and I see an entire fucking game for $4, and I'm like, wait, what? So I don't know that happens. Like, I have no idea. Seriously.
Well, you know, one thing I saw a screenshot of a game that was on a PS Plus sale, and the screenshot was, I think the game was $14.99 for people who didn't have PS Plus. And do you know what the PS Plus member price was? It was also $14.99.
Well, that's a nice sale right there.
Yeah, I know. Save nothing, asshole. Buy it. I mean, I know that's a very extreme. Is a very extreme, you know, example that I'm bringing up. But you know, basically, most of the time, I don't feel like the sales on Xbox Live, I don't feel like the sales on PSN are really all that great. And the reason why is because there is there's a huge disparagement between digital sales and retail sales.
Yeah.
And that's a huge conversation to have right there. And a lot of people don't understand why there is such a huge disparity there. And I want to get into that a little bit. I've explained it a long time ago in my writing on the site, and this shouldn't really be a secret to anyone. If you want to go into a little bit of conspiracy mode, I guess you could listen to certain insiders out there who say that companies like GameStop will literally tell publishers, listen, on day one, if you make the digital price of that game less than the retail price, you're going to screw us. We're not going to have it. And guess what? You need us because we sell more copies of your game than pretty much anyone. We just won't sell your game. And the publishers can't have that, and they get scared, and they go, well, shit. So I guess they're going to have to be the same digital and physical.
Okay, now, this is when I'm going to jump in with a but maybe. So this is the but maybe moment. So this is all true what you said, but maybe if they said, well, you know what, fuck you, GameStop, we're going to drop the price $30 just for once, and they do that on day one, I'm sure the next time they're gonna see that they have way more sales on the digital platform than they have on GameStop, and so they have the power at that point. So, you know, it's an argument that it's really all over the place.
Yeah, that's true, and that's an amazing point. And you know, if one company does it and they're successful and they still rake in a lot of money, then other people will follow suit. But that scares me because that's going to just bring us another step closer to all digital, and I have my reasons for not wanting that too. But so let's get away from the GameStop thing. If you don't want to conspiracy theorize about this, let's just look at business and numbers and how this really works. The reason why there is such a disparity between retail prices like a month or two after launch is because, look, the MSRP, the manufacturer suggested retail price, is $59.99. That's what's set by the publisher, okay? So it goes up on the digital storefront for $59.99, and then it goes to the retail shelves for $59.99 on day one. Well, digital's not going anywhere. MSRP is what it is, and it's going to stay there for a while unless there's a shitty PS Plus or Xbox Live sale. Stores, on the other hand, they have physical product on their shelves. And I know it's a cliche when people say, oh, but shelf space equals money. Well, it really does, because if you have something sitting on a shelf and you've got too much of it and not enough of it is moving, and you want to put something newer there that will sell, you want to get that off your shelf. So what these stores do, they are saying, we can take a cut on this game. Yeah, it's supposed to be $60, and we paid maybe $45 for it, but maybe we'll sell it for $40 and take a hit, and we'll use that as what they call a loss leader. And a loss leader is something they put in the paper and advertise so that you can go into the store and buy that, but while you're there, hopefully you'll buy some other stuff, and they can make their money back that way.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, maybe 2 months after launch, you're going to see a game for $40 on the shelf, where it's still $60 for retail. In both situations, the MSRP is still the same, $59.99. It's just the store has decided to take a hit and sell it for less so that they can move it off their shelves. So I know that digital, sale-wise, PSN, Xbox Live, Sony, Microsoft, and the publishers, whatever, they're trying to make things more competitive nowadays. They're trying to get sales. They're trying to entice people to spend money on stuff like that, and to entice you to get their membership program so that you can have access to these wonderful sales when they happen. But the problem is that it's not good enough. I mean, I know people expect too much, and there's a lot of people who will not buy a game unless it's $20 anymore, which I kind of don't agree with. I mean, if you don't want to play a game but you're semi-curious about it, sure, wait and pick it up cheap. But I mean, I don't see why you should always refuse to pay full price for a game if it's going to be something you're going to love. But that's it in a nutshell as far as the sales are concerned.
I'll give you an insider's news, which is not news at all. It's like, I think it's 3 or more years that there's some serious, to some degree, talk about making the sale of used games possible on the stores, on the digital ones.
I have not heard about that, actually. I mean, I've heard people say they'd like that, but...
Yeah, but it never went anywhere because publishers do not like that shit that much. Even though in the talks there was the fact that they would get a cut, like a percentage of what you, like, let's say you want to sell me whatever for $10, you actually get, I don't know, $7 or $8 instead of 10, because those $2 or $3 are going to go, I don't know, Sony or Microsoft, and then they split with the publisher and whatnot. So there's been talks about that, a lot of it, but yeah, it didn't go anywhere yet. So.
Well, I mean, I think that's sort of what they plan to initially do with the DRM-laced Xbox One. I mean, I think that you were going to be able to tie a license from a disc to the machine, but if you wanted to sell your game, then basically, like, somebody else, I mean, this was going to screw GameStop and stores like that royally, because then, you'd have to, the next person would have to pay a chunk of the license or something like that in order to be able to get the swapped license or something. I don't remember all the exact details at this point, but I recall something like that, and it sounded really messy, and more than anything, it just sounded like a deterrent to make people not even want to, trade or sell their games to anybody to begin with, especially to stores like GameStop. But I really think that, as you said about the movies and everything, just to sort of kind of circle back around to relevancy here. I can't talk. I need coffee like you, and it's not even middle of the morning for me. It's not even 10 o'clock.
We probably have 3 viewers at most, so who the fuck cares what we say?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that we it's as you said, like, I feel like these companies, they just don't understand gamers anymore, and especially Sony, the leading favorite that's out there. And I know you write for fucking official PlayStation magazine, but it's like they had such a substantial lead. They have done virtually nothing in order to get it back. But like, yeah, you have. They launched the console, and what did they have on it? Like, no, you can't play your music and movies on it like you could on the PS3. But guess what? You can buy, subscription services to this music program and to this movie program, and you can buy movies off our store.
It's gonna close and change format and name, like, shortly. The Music Unlimited is gonna be no more. It's gonna turn into I don't even remember.
Well, they're getting something going with Spotify, aren't they?
Yeah, that could be it. I'm so not interested into that I don't even look it up. So yeah.
No, me either.
I can give you another.
I mean, at this point, it's meaningless though, because Sony, for being for the gamers, I understand there are a lot of people that do like to use their consoles for that, because one thing that's really cool for me, I mean, you can see my TV, I can't even point in the right direction. My TV's back there, and in the other direction in the back here where I'm pointing with this little thing, I've got a receiver up here which connects to my Xbox One that's back there, my PS4. My PC here is wireless. So I could stream my music from there over to my home theater setup to the floor standing speakers back there, instead of these shitty little speakers, that I've got on the side of my computer. So that's nice. I can do that on my Xbox One now. I can't do that on my PS4.
Yeah.
Because Sony are so hard up on having this tiered level service, because they don't want you to have access to your music. They want to sell you a subscription to this. They want to sell you a subscription to that. They want to sell you a subscription to PS Now.
2 years ago, I said to some people that they were looking to many ways to tier the subscription models, and very few took me seriously. I have no idea why. Like, sometimes it's like I don't have any street cred. Like, I've been writing for gaming magazines for 17 years, but...
And one guy who is allegedly incredibly in the know, too.
Yeah. I have to give him credit, though, because he was actually one of those that kind of took me seriously about that. So, yeah, credit where it's due. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Is there a podcast? Or do we have something else?
Well, do you want to get into anything, or do you want to go to sleep? Because you know what? We could actually talk about this whole thing with PS Now if you want. He wants to go to bed.
I really have to take a piss. So unless I slice this bottle and just go, I think I'm gonna have to go at least for a few minutes. But I was thinking we could close the podcast with a little tease for the next one, which we should really have some kind of a schedule for that, because, and I know I'm the shitty one that never has time, but it's my fault. But we should do this more frequently because I really enjoy it. What if next time we're gonna talk about something that I should probably not talk about, but programmed delays.
Program delays.
Yeah, sometimes you delay a game because you cannot finish it in time, but there's this new trend right now in which a game is really finished by every mean, but let's delay it when there's nothing else, and let's delay a series of games so they just fall all into place. So we could talk about that.
We will. And before we go, because I'm not in the know like you are as far as that is concerned, but I'm going to guess that's exactly what happened with the Order 1886, because I feel like that game was freaking done, but they saw the competition that they had in November and they pushed it to fucking February. And I think Telltale is doing that with their games too, because on their website they said, oh, we're going to give you a new episode of our games like The Walking Dead every 4 to 5 weeks. And yet, there are episodes that come like 9, 10, 11 weeks later, but that's also because they're not doing just Walking Dead anymore. They're doing The Walking Dead, they're doing Game of Thrones, they're doing The Wolf Among Us, and blah, 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 blah. But as you said, next time.
I'm not going to confirm or deny what you just said, and I'm not going to say that there's probably another game coming out next month that was a victim of that, but hey, we'll talk about it another time.
Thank you very much, anybody who tuned in. If you're tuning in after the fact as well, you're seeing this video on ByteSizeImpressions.com. If you like the conversation, if you like the honesty, if you like the perspective, keep reading the writing, keep tuning into the podcast, which, as Gabe said, we hope to be doing on a more frequent basis because, as he said, I sure as hell enjoy doing this. So thanks again, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.